Every form of life on Earth takes what it needs from the planet. This creates a community in which living things are both competing with and helping one another. This shared life experience is the foundation for achieving harmonious coexistence and development. Yunnan in southwest China borders the Tibetan Plateau to the north and the Indochina Peninsula to the south. The province extends across 3 climate zones: tropical, subtropical, and subalpine. The range of weather conditions has produced an extremely varied and highly complex array of flora and fauna. The densely intertwined branches and leaves seem to form a path of life. For the majority of green plants, sunlight is the most precious resource. In the rainforest, the tallest trees, less than 20% of the flora, trap most of the light. More than 80% of the plant species here live beneath the forest canopy. They survive by seizing hold of the few shafts of sunlight that penetrate it. The Paraschoria chinensis, with its great height, is one tree capable of raising its crown above the canopy of the rainforest. Efficient photosynthesis is the secret to the rapid growth that makes it the tallest tree in the forest. The humid air currents from the Indian Ocean are a source of life in the forest. After the rain, the plants begin to propagate. The seed falling from the Paraschoria chinensis resembles a parachute. The protective spiral structure means that even if it were dropped from the top of a 25-story building, it would still settle slowly on the ground. The mature seeds, after scattering across the wooded area, take between 1 and 4 days to germinate. However, their chances of survival are extremely low. Just 1 in every 20,000 seeds will reach maturity. Even the lucky ones only survive with some help. The colony of ants, by loosening the soil, encourage the nutrients to circulate. The seeds are beginning to germinate. They put out root hair and leaves and begin to grow upward. Incredibly, the tiny ants are supporting the towering trees. The little squirrel looks around warily and inches forward, looking for his opportunity. The great barbet is vigilant in guarding its food. The squirrel isn't a danger, but it's a cunning thief. The moment the great barbet drops its guard, the squirrel strikes. The thief is clever. He hides the food and then swaggers away. The creature with the white beard is a northern white-cheeked gibbon. It's endemic to the border area of China, Laos and Vietnam. Here, the dense canopy provides it with both food and shelter. The male gibbon is alert to the slightest change in his surroundings. Protected by its father, the young gibbon moves freely through the forest in search of food. The cluster fig is a favorite of the northern white-cheeked gibbon. The bracts on top of the fig have opened and are beginning to release a highly potent chemical substance. For the fig wasps, this is an irresistible invitation. They follow the scent, desperate to penetrate the opened bracts. There, they'll look for a suitable spot inside the fruit to lay their eggs and pollinate the plant. The many creatures that eat its fruit serve a vital function for the cluster fig by scattering its seeds in their feces. Such mutually beneficial interaction is the secret to the rainforest's survival. The call of the northern white-cheeked gibbon echoes through the rainforest like a paean to its home. This endangered creature is now enjoying increased human protection. The Pseudo-Drynaria Coronanz is another plant species associated with a fascinating story of survival. They have their own unique way of reaching the sunlight. Aided by the giant trees, they make their way from the gloom of the forest floor up into the sunny canopy of the rainforest. Other plants refuse to be left behind. With the help of the trunks of the towering trees, the Eleutherina macrocarpa creep upwards to the sunlight. Carried on the shoulders of the giant trees, these epiphytic ferns and vines have a precious opportunity to grow. Forests form the largest ecosystem on Earth, with the greatest biomass. As a vital part of the global biosphere, they are regarded as the planet's gene pool, reservoir, and energy bank. Having obtained sufficient nourishment, the Pseudo-Drynaria Coronanz begin to bear fruit. The secret to their ability to propagate is found on the back of their leaves. The neatly arranged, densely packed spheres contain hundreds of cells. When mature, they will emerge and search for a new home. The formation and development of modern forests has been a long evolutionary process. Plants, typically ferns and ancient gymnosperms, were their origin. The trees, shrubs and herbaceous plants that developed from the ferns constituted a vast area of coastal and inland swamp forests, and when they died and were compressed, they formed rich carbon deposits that eventually became coal. Today, when we light a piece of coal, we are igniting the ancient sunlight stored in the ferns and ancient gymnosperms hundreds of millions of years ago. The forests of Yunnan, since they were unaffected by glacial movements, retain elements of their prehistoric appearance. The flying spider monkey tree fern is a first-class protected wild plant in many countries. It's one of the tallest types of fern, capable of growing to a height of 6 meters. It has earned its name, King of Ferns, thanks to the fibrous tissue running through its body that delivers a steady supply of nutrients and water, which allows it to grow bigger and taller and obtain more sunlight. The tiny tentacles dotted along its trunk facilitate its absorption of the moisture in the air. But even more powerful than the tentacles of the flying spider monkey tree fern are the aerial roots of the cluster fig tree. They grow thickly from the trunks and branches, capturing and extracting moisture from the humid rainforest. But the forest is crowded and living space is a scarce resource. The plants face a constant battle to survive and propagate. From this cycle of life and death, flourishing and perishing, the earth derives much of its vitality. The sturdy roots and branches of the cluster fig are testament to its will to survive. Though apparently locked in a passionate embrace, they are, in fact, strangling one another. The ancient forests contain within themselves a tremendous life force that gives rise to myriad scenes of harmony and wonder. The thin-bodied, round-eyed lorises, at rest in the forest canopy, are able to maintain this position for hours at a time. A forest is the ideal environment for those creatures that enjoy a leisurely existence. Lorises feed mainly on insects and lizards, and sometimes berry leaves and flower buds. They may be sluggish, but they pack a powerful defense in the form of venom which they shoot from their elbows. Even when they are grooming themselves, they're covering their fur with a protective layer. The Earth's evolution from being barren to full of life has been a long, slow process. Species, in the course of evolving from low to high level, from simple to complex, bring more color to the world. The parasitic dendrobium flowers emit an attractive scent, encouraging the giant honeybees to build their hives on the tree. But the bee's kingdom is vulnerable, easily destroyed by a gust of wind. As the old fall, the new begin to thrive. The cycle repeats itself day after day. This is the song of life that will be sung around the earth forever. These large birds with magnificent plumage are national first-class protected species, found only in Yunnan. The Tongbiguan Provincial Nature Reserve, containing the world's only rainforest in a low-latitude subalpine zone, is the great Hornbills' habitat. These birds live among the tall trees in the forest, feeding on fruit and insects. During the breeding season, the female enters a hole on the tree trunk, which she chose in advance. The male uses soil to seal her inside, leaving only a narrow opening. While the female hatches her eggs inside the tree, the male is constantly on the move, tending to her every need. He stores the tiny fruit in his crop, ready to be passed through the narrow opening. The large hornbills rely on tall trees for their survival. Just as hornbills and forest are mutually dependent, so too are humans and nature. A forest conserves water and acts as a huge reservoir. Some rainfall is trapped in the canopy, but most makes its way down to the loose and porous soil beneath the trees. Some of it's absorbed by the roots of the plants, and some returns to the atmosphere through evaporation. Statistics show that a hectare of forest can emit 8,000 tons of water a year in evaporation. This helps regulate the local climate by moistening the air, increasing the rainfall, creating warmth in winter, and exerting a cooling effect in summer. The leaves of the trees, meanwhile, function as umbrellas, preventing the rain from directly washing onto the ground. The moss on the tree trunks, the dead twigs, and the withered leaves serve a similar purpose. Together they form a crucial part of the ecosystem. Yunnan province has the largest number of plant species in China, including tropical, subtropical, temperate, and sub-frigid varieties. There are 30,000 species of higher plants in China, more than 60% of which are found in Yunnan. The entire Yunnan Guizhou Plateau is dominated by evergreen broadleaf forests. Trees such as the camphor tree, Lithocarpus glabra and Mangliotea fordiana, shrubs such as Rhododendron simus and Turnstremia gymnanthera, as well as herbaceous plants such as ferns, lilies and arums. These are all part of and contribute to the evergreen broadleaf forests of the Yunnan-Guizhou Plateau. The forests, in turn, protect the plateau's abundance of water. Deep inside the Ailau Mountains live dozens of butterfly species. In May, when they are gestating, they camouflage themselves to elude their natural predators. After 30 days, millions of caterpillars will metamorphose into butterflies, fluttering around the forests and mountains. The Mangliotea stromycenicum is one of the best-known members of the magnolia family. It's also one of the biggest, growing to a height in excess of 40 meters and a diameter of 1.2 meters. Its wild variety, which is endemic to China and found only in southeastern Yunnan, is a rare and endangered plant under national first-class protection. But Yunnan abounds in rare and exotic plants. This graceful pine tree with the strange bark is called a Chaojia five-needle pine. It's only found in Yaoshan in Chaojia County, Yunnan. It, too, is under first-class state protection. When the Chaojia five-needle pine was discovered in the early 1990s, there were fewer than 30 of them growing in a small area of Yaoshan. China has now established the Yaoshan National Nature Reserve, especially to monitor and protect a tree that is listed as one of the 100 most endangered in the world. Today, the Chaojia five-needle pine is well protected. More than 7,000 of its seedlings have been cultivated artificially. In the near future, the Chaojia five-needle pine will be cultivated in gardens and scenic areas so that more people can appreciate its beauty. The area of the Hengduan Mountains in western Yunnan has been largely unaffected by glaciers since the Cenozoic era. This means that it became a refuge for animals and plants. Today it's a place where some ancient primitive species are preserved. The Taiwania flausiana is known as a living fossil, a relict plant from the Paleotropical Kingdom in the Tertiary period. It's under second-class state protection. It's distributed across western Yunnan and northern Myanmar. The most ancient of these trees is 2,000 years old. It takes 8 people to encircle this Taiwania flausiana with their arms. It's 97 meters high, making it the tallest tree ever recorded in Eurasia. The Taxus yunnanensis is an ancient relict tree species dating from the Quaternary glaciation. In the vast family of trees, the conifers are the most resilient. conifer forests are found in alpine regions at an altitude of 3,000 to 5,000 meters. In the extreme cold, the trees absorb water through their tubular leaves and lie dormant. In spring, they unfold their umbrella-like trunks and embrace nature. Despite the harsh environment in which they live, conifers are among the longest living trees on Earth. In nature, every species, no matter how inconspicuous, has its unique value. The forest is an organic whole of innumerable organisms and influences, all of them interrelated and interdependent. Together, they constitute the most productive, the largest, and the most complex ecosystem on Earth. Forests, with their greenery, are a cradle of human life and an inspiration for human civilization. Because we depend on them for our survival, our future would be inconceivable without forests.
向所有方向